Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to TAC. I'm going to ask the clerks to do a roll call. Did we miss somebody? Okay. Did we miss? Oh, we don't have one. Okay. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I need a motion to adopt the minutes of the Durham Region Transit Executive Committee for April the 2nd. Bruce Garrett and Commissioner, thank you, and Commissioner Watton. Is there any questions? All in favor? Thank you. General Manager Holmes.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here with us today. I'm just going to start. I had a really great morning, and it started off in Pickering. Went for a real nice ride on the Route 118 with Commissioner Brenner, Pickles, Councillor Butt from Pickering, and Mayor Ash, just to ride the route, see what it was all about, engage with customers, and it was really a good experience. Seeing how the ridership is increasing on that route as we're increasing the frequency, so it was great. And you might note a little extra jump in my step today because I was on the platform in Pickering talking with one of our customers. And we got to talking away, and she, eventually said, well, geez, I'm much older than you. And I said, well, how old are you? And she said, 51. I said, well, thank you very much. So I'm feeling really good right now today after that discussion. So. All right, so we're going to start today with a few highlights, as we always do from our monthly report. Great news is our preventable collisions are continuing to drop, 15% lower than we were last year. March was pretty consistent with March of 2024. Ridership in March also rebounded from February. If you recall, it was lower than expected in February, but we did rebound and we were 3% higher than last year. And if you remember, 2024 was a record year for ridership for us. So we're continuing to go in the right direction there. On the on-demand network, we had 26,676 boardings. Apologize for the incorrect number there. And there were 16,000 boardings for customers registered with Specialized Transit, and that was about 62% of all trips. Year-to-date, bookings and trips on-demand are 13% higher than last year. And what we're seeing is through that investment, through the budget process and adding more capacity on the network, we're seeing that number increase as we had predicted. From a performance perspective with the on-demand network, on-time performance for those trips is far exceeding our target of 80%. Service availability as well is increasing since January, continued to increase month over month. We're up to 96.8% there. And the unaccommodated rate, it also, as we're delivering more trips, the unaccommodated rate is starting to come down, which is what we're looking for, down to 28.2% and 10.4% for customers registered with Specialized Transit. Again, that's both improving as we're adding capacity to the network. I wanted to highlight as well this month to you a great partnership we had with one of our local businesses in Pickering, Shandex Group. There was an individual that used to use DRT every day to get to and from work, Jean-Paul Hamilton, who had passed away not too long ago. And the CEO, Jennifer, Shannon and I were talking one day at a meeting, and just, she was very interested in doing something to support her staff in memory of Jean-Paul, and we got to talking, and we collaborated with Shandex to install a bus shelter across that many of the employees of Shandex and the neighboring businesses use. So we had a number of folks there on April 22nd, including Chair Crawford and a number of the politicians councillors from Pickering. And it was just a great day to see the commitment that Shandex and their CEO have for their employees. Great facilities. She gave us a quick tour, wonderful facilities. But it was really eye-opening and again, takes you back to the impact that public transit has on residents who rely on it every day to get to and from work and to school. for other trips across the region. So it was a great opportunity to see and collaborate with one of our local businesses, and they actually have placed a plaque inside on the seat in memory of Jean Paul. So it was a really nice event. Also wanted to highlight a great session we had in Uxbridge and engaging with seniors, and those that came out were very engaging and really key on providing information for us. And again, it really reinforced what we're seeing with our engagement team and meeting people where they are and engaging with them where they are. We asked them what was working well from their perspective. The comment of the convenience of the Presto fare system, and we were making this comment this morning with Councillor Butt that the Presto system is really a world-class system now. It's really developed to the point where others internationally are looking to the Presto network to see the capacity it has. So we're really happy with how that's going and how our customers are seeing the benefits and the convenience of that. Also, they're seeing positive experiences on the buses and ease of accessing information. We hear a lot about people that don't have information, and you see that's one of the preferences for the next 5 years for that group is for more people to understand and be aware of public transit. But for those people who are, it's very easy for them to get the information that we are making available for them. In terms of what was not working well, they talked about bus frequency, and I don't think that's a surprise. People want to see more service, and that's what our 10-year service plan and those annual investments we're making. They are making a difference. Didn't really like the need to pre-plan trips on demand, but that's the way that system is operating. And the general lack of awareness across the community of DRT and public transit and the services. And that's not just an Uxbridge issue. We hear that across all municipalities, and that unless someone's a customer, they don't know much about us. And that's one of the challenges for our communication team is how do we get people to pay attention when they're not paying attention? Because we want them to see us as a viable alternative, and we'll continue to work on that. We also asked them what's preventing them from taking transit in Uxbridge. And they talked about weather conditions and getting to and from the bus stop. And we saw that with the ridership numbers in February. With the poor weather, it's a little more challenging and people tend not to travel. Not much we can do about that. But other things such as the timing, the frequency, and the travel time, that's what we're continuing to work on. And one of the priorities we have in our operations team and through the budget process is investing in service to make it more accessible and reliable. And the other one, which isn't a surprise, we hear this regularly, is that people that don't use transit find it intimidating, particularly if you've driven your whole life and you lose your license. It is intimidating trying to figure out how to use the service and the big bus and everything that comes along with it. And again, as you know, we have a really sophisticated travel training process that we have through our engagement team that's available to any individual, any groups. And we can continue to promote that across the region for anyone that's more interested in learning how to use the service. And we have our ambassadors come out and complete that training for them. Just a couple other highlights I wanted to share, and this came from a question from the chair last month in regards to the removal of the federal fuel charge and what's that mean for DRT, because we are a consumer of fossil fuel with our diesel buses. And since looking at April 1st for the rest of the year, we predict that we'll avoid about a $1.5 million in costs that otherwise would have been paid through that federal charge. We also launched, and a number of people were here for the Hidden Disability Sunflower Program launch on April 29th, which was a great event. And the Canadian representative for this international program actually said this is the first time that she's been involved in an actual event, kicking off the Hidden Disability Program, Sunflower Program. So again, it was very positive, really great recognition as well from the program itself, and we're really looking at continuing to promote that. We have talked with the staff that the easiest part is over, right? We've got it launched now and all the training's done. Now it's sustaining that program and making sure that our customers are aware of it, and that we sustain that until it's a real cultural norm for us. Also want to let Tech know that we have received formal notification now in a letter from Metrolinx in terms of their desire to renegotiate the Presto agreement, which expires at the end of next year. So we will be starting to sit down with our colleagues in the 905 and Metrolinx to start that process. As indicated, from a fare management system, fare payment system, it is world-class. But we do have some issues that we need to work through in that next agreement. So we'll be keeping you updated on the progress of that over the next year. The last thing I wanted to make a note of is, we have some of our partners here from Durham College, and Professor Main is here. with his students from the IT group. And what we've asked is it's one of the winning teams from the hackathon that we talked about last month, just to come and talk to you a little bit about the work that they did and the project that they did over that, again, 24-hour period. It's amazing to see what they accomplished. So they're going to come up here in a moment, just to let you know a little bit about it. I will ask that they introduce themselves, though, when they do that. And I also want to just recognize representatives from Transit App who came in to talk with the students. So this is the app that we leverage, and they volunteered to come down and talk with the students before about what's going on in that world, because they are colliding transit and data, which is key. So thank you so much for coming, and appreciate your time and spending time with the students. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our friends from Durham College, and you can take it from here.
Hi, we are GRT Time, and my name is Jung Hwa Hyun.
My name is Marcin Koglip. I just want to take a moment to greet everybody in the room on behalf of Durham College. Thanks for having us here. We are here to show and demonstrate our DRT Time, our app that we developed on a hackathon. Our slogan is award-winning solution for public commute. And June will explain a little bit more.
So it's for we build with the Next.js and React Native for DRT Transit app. And this for the real-time bus tracking for the web and also mobile user, and hybrid this solution with the seamless user experience. And it is accurate and integrate with the DRT open data and enhancing the transit planning for the commuter. So we added the weather information for our app. And for the technical architecture, for the front end, we use the Next.js and Mercurial UI. And also we use the Google Map API integration. And for the mobile, we use the React Native, Expo, and WebView Hybrid. And for the backend, we use the GTFS static DRT data and RESTful API. And for the weather, we use the open weather maps. And our web application has the 4 main pages. First one is for the transit search. It is for integrative map and address autocomplete. So it shows the real-time location, and we can searching the routes. And the next page is route management. It shows the DRT bus schedule static and also stop sequences. And the third one is stop locator. It shows the nearest stops and based on the current location. And each stop shows the bus schedule. And the last one is weather integration. It shows the weather information.
Okay, thank you, Jim. So essentially, just to talk more about the app, because I understand that not everybody is a technical people in here. To start with, the driving force of us developing this app specifically on this hackathon was that the current implementation of the Transit app didn't have at the moment the browser implementation. Moreover, they didn't have the essentially the display for the buses in any given area. In our implementation, we're displaying this as we're pulling the protobuf data. Essentially, that is done in certain constraints to promote the essentially performance of this application. That was demonstrated in our technical innovations that we leveraged in order to produce this app in such a short term. Not only that, we obviously leveraged the protobuf, the way we handled it, transmission from the protobuf to the JavaScript objects, but I understand it's a little bit more technical talk. Essentially, we make our app to display the buses in the real time. This app can display the weather events in the same app. The app is consistent on the browser and is also consistent on the phone. So you get the consistent experience with that. Applications for people who has like visual impairments, for example, the browser version might be a little bit easier because it's bigger. For the phone, again, mobile application, everybody has a phone, everybody wants to get on the bus. essentially, for the future of that, we are planning to implement more robust caching system. Currently, we do implement caching, but it is what's provided by the React Native framework itself. We're planning on expanding our essentially this part in the website where it displays the buses in the area. We want to make it so it displays it in any point of the map. So this feature is partially implemented in the Transit app, but we want to expand on that, upgrade this, and actually deliver this experience to people that are interested in using the app in the browser, not only in the phone. That's going to be pretty much it for the presentation of the app. We would like to show you the demo, but for now it's just a PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you.
So hang on, there might be some questions. I just wanted to close off today, just before we go to questions on the presentation. You'll see there's a couple of other reports in your the agenda today. One is the negotiations of the UPass and the new rate, so moving forward to be able to sign that agreement. So a very positive process that we went through this year. Really happy with the outcome. Again, the report is self-explanatory there. As well as we've come back, as we indicated earlier in the year, with some recommendations on standards, revisions to standards for the on-demand process. And there'll be a presentation following this one as well. We're going to have that completed very shortly. So any questions of the presentation?
Commissioner Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick comment. Thanks to the students for coming in and presenting that. Just a suggestion, as you're developing the app, keep in mind some of the demographic that GM Homes was talking about. So you've got some seniors that will be looking to use this, and they won't be nearly as tech savvy as the two of you clearly are. So, and one of the ways you might be able to do that is through some, I think there's some seniors studies within the college, not sure what it's called, but maybe connect with them too, just to understand what would be useful from their perspective. Just a bit of advice, because that's what dads do. We just give advice.
Yep. Yeah, thank you for that. That's a very good comment, actually. As I mentioned previously, the web portion of this is for, like, it's larger in size, so that's going to be very good for the seniors as well. Yeah, I just want to remark that. Thank you.
I had a question about the language. How does that work? Like, how would you, if you speak, I don't know, Mandarin, how does that work in the app?
Actually, we didn't if we had the app on display, we would show you.
Okay.
But essentially, we do have a settings page. It is a working progress. Currently, it's only the English that is implemented, but we are planning on expanding to French. It is also available in the settings.
Okay, great, thank you. Well done, well done.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? I don't see any. Thank you very much for your work and your presentation. Thank you, General Manager Holmes. And I believe we now have Anthony coming up.
There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. So this presentation is just to complement Report 2025 DRT 06, as General Manager Holmes mentioned, on some proposed changes and recommendations to how customers will interact with our on-demand service, inclusive of those customers that are eligible for specialized trips. So we're going to be speaking through 3 topics, which have recommendations associated with each. Just wanted to start with level setting and making sure everybody fully understands the topics that we are in fact talking about. So number 1 is subscription trips. So what a subscription trip is, currently eligible for specialized customers, those customers eligible for specialized trips only. Customers will reach out to us. They'll say that they have a very specific travel pattern. So for example, they need to go from their home to location X every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, leaving at this time, coming home at another time. We put those trips into the system. They never have to reach out to us again unless they want to cancel those trips, and those buses keep showing up for them. So that's what a subscription is. It minimizes the interaction with our booking agents, and those customers can rely on that on-demand service showing up each day. Trip booking windows. So what does that mean? That means how far out can you access the service? So those customers today that are eligible for specialized trips can do that 7 days in advance. The balance of our on-demand customers can only reach out and book trips 24 hours in advance. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we do have a few legacy customers that travel to destinations outside of DRT's operating area, specifically well within the boundaries of Markham and Toronto. So we'll have a quick conversation about that. So we're going to start with subscription trips, and we have 5 options that we've put into our report, inclusive of our recommendations. So option number 1, status quo, which is we keep accepting subscriptions. Those subscriptions are only eligible for customers eligible for specialized transit, and we don't put a cap on that. So that's kind of status quo. Like, quick side note, in December, when we presented what the current status of our ridership looked like in on-demand, we did put a temporary pause on accepting new subscriptions, and we wanted to do that until such time as we had a chance to fully dive into the data and then bring back this report with recommendations to you to make a decision about how we want to proceed forward. So that's option 1. Option 2, we don't have any limit to subscriptions, but we open up the window to all customers. So not only customers eligible for specialized transit, but also the balance of on-demand customers. So this could potentially open up opportunities for people that have to go to school every day, people that have to go to work every day. They don't have any kind of restriction to their ability to access transit, so they're not eligible for specialized. We would open up those subscription opportunities for them. Option 3, no subscriptions at all. So all of our customers, regardless of their eligibility, would access the service through the booking windows. Option 4, we cap subscriptions. So we allow subscriptions to our customers eligible for specialized transit, but we set a daily cap. And that cap that we're looking at is 30%. And then finally, option 5, we use that same approach with a capped subscription model. So 30% of our daily capacity is eligible for subscriptions, but we open up those subscriptions for all customers. A little bit of a tweak to that open model for all customers, we would specifically reserve half of that subscription capacity for our customers eligible for specialized transit, and then the other half, or 15% of that daily capacity, would be open to whoever gets access to that first. So we put a quick visual to help understand the various options and what the potential perception or impact to the network would be. So each option is listed down the left-hand column. So the options are vertical with the respective perception or impacts horizontally. Green being good, yellow being cautionary. There are some potential negative impacts, red being the most cautionary. And so when we start with the status quo, from the equity perspective, we really are looking at a lack of equity. And this is one of the objectives that we set out when we were reviewing this data and how customers interact with the service. We were looking at what is the overall equity of how we allow customers to access the service. So if those subscription trips are only available for customers eligible for specialized trips, there is essentially a lack of equity because those customers essentially have an elevated level of service because they can book once, their service comes all the time based on what their requested travel pattern is. They don't have to interact with us again unless they're changing what those travel patterns are. In terms of capacity, in working with our software supplier, VIA, this model of some customers being in a subscription, other customers booking ad hoc, it actually reduces our capacity because we're not able to use either a strict ad hoc booking model where the app essentially looks at where the vehicles are, where the customer trying to go, and can pair up in real time how customers are going to access the service. It's also not leveraging the 100% pre-booked and then optimization model, which the app can do for us by having all of those rides booked in advance. So not great in terms of our overall capacity, in terms of our resources. From a customer perception risk, people that don't necessarily ride the service today would be saying, well, again, there's a group of customers that seem to be able to access the service better than I can. Like, is that really great? And then from an impacting customer perspective, nothing really changes. We have a whole lot of customers who are eligible for specialized trips. They get their subscriptions, they ride consistently, and we still will see unaccommodated rates on our on-demand customers as they're kind of challenged in accessing the balance of capacity. When we look at option 2, from an equity perspective, it's great. Everybody has the same access to the same suite of services. So that's really good. We do have essentially an elevated capacity because, again, understanding that what would likely happen is 100% of our capacity would get consumed by subscriptions. That will happen if we open it up completely with no caps. There is an advantage to that in that the system, 24 hours before the day of delivery, will perform an optimization model. So we'll look at all of the subscriptions in the system, where people are going, what time of day they're going, and it will perform an algorithm that essentially makes sure that it's using the least number of vehicles and drivers in order to accomplish that. So there could be a small percentage of ad hoc trips that open up based on that. But again, that number won't be high in terms of ad hoc. New customers will probably not be very successful at accessing the service at all. So from that perspective, that won't look good. And then, of course, the existing customers that have been using the service in ad hoc ways, whether they're an on-demand customer, whether they're a customer eligible for specialized transit, if they don't use the service on a regular basis, they'll probably not have that access that they have been experiencing up to this point because the balance of the service will be consumed by the subscriptions. The no subscription model, equitable access. Everybody, again, has the same ability to access the service. This essentially provides us with the greatest capacity as the application will perform its efficiency algorithms and match up rides with the service as best as possible. We know there will be some concerns, those customers that really and truly need to get to their destinations on a regular basis for any variety of reasons. They will have to try and book those ad hoc trips within those booking windows. They'll usually be successful. There are times that they may not be successful depending on when they try to book the ride, how many other people have booked rides, where those rides are going. So there is that potential. And then, of course, those customers that have subscriptions today might feel that we're taking away a service that they've had in some cases for many, many, many years. So that could be a fairly strong negative sentiment from those customers that have been experiencing that service. Option 4, capped subscriptions exclusively for customers that are eligible for specialized trips. We return to that equity imbalance. Again, you're providing one suite of services for a group of customers as opposed to all customers accessing the service. You will have an improved capacity compared to today because we'll be reducing essentially. Today our subscription trips are in and around 40% depending on the day of service. So dropping that number down to 30% essentially opens up 10% more daily capacity to a greater audience of customers. From a customer perspective, there could be some customers of specialized transit that won't be able to have a subscription trip that they have enjoyed for the last several years, depending on how we calculate which customers would fall into that 30%, and we can get into that. And then again, from an existing customer perspective, on a daily basis, we're looking at, could be approximately 150 customers compared to today that would have to book access on an ad hoc basis as opposed to just relying on their subscriptions. Which brings us to option 5, which is a capped subscription model that is available for all customers. From an equity perspective, we return to equitable access for all customers accessing the service. We still see that improved overall capacity because we are essentially opening an additional 10% of today's capacity for customers who need to access the system ad hoc. There is a bit of a customer perception risk in that, again, some customers who are trying to access the service that have had subscriptions in the past, they're not sure if they're going to be able to travel on a consistent basis, and then that directly impacts those existing customers today. With that cap, we could be looking at a number of customers today that have subscriptions that will need to call us and book on an ad hoc basis for each of their trips. When we look at the trip booking window, we have three options here. So the one is status quo. As I mentioned at the introduction, today's status quo is customers eligible for specialized transit can call us and reserve rides 7 days in advance. Our balance of on-demand customers have to wait till 24 hours, essentially midnight the day of operation, to go into the app and try to secure a ride if they can. Option three, that's today. Option two, we look at one booking window. So one booking window is all customers will have the same booking opportunity across the network. What we're proposing is 3 days for all customers. So 3 days out, customers will be able to start trying to book rides. There is a small caveat to that, and that is for the immediate implementation, if that was ever to be the decision, our customers eligible for specialized transit would have an additional 24 hours, so their booking window would open up 4 days in advance. The prime reason for that is today, Via, the application that customers interact to book rides, is still working through some technical data issues in terms of recognizing individual customers' eligibility. In working with Via, we understand that they have a beta test for that eligibility recognition that's supposed to come into place this fall. We've asked if we can participate in that beta test, and they're looking essentially for a full implementation based on that beta test by late 2025. At the point where our customers eligible for specialized transit, the app can recognize their eligibility. That is the point that we would then have all customers have the exact same booking window, which would be 3 days. So that's just a quick caveat on option two. Option three is no booking windows. Everybody books basically when they want to travel. So I need to go in an hour, go into the app or call our booking agents, try to secure a ride. So that's option three. Again, we wanted to build out the option window with the same color coding and the same model. If you will look at option one, which is our current standard, you're looking at an imbalance in terms of equitable access to the service. So again, those customers that are eligible for specialized transit can pre-book a week out. That's even if they don't have a subscription. So those with a subscription don't call us, but all other customers call us 7 days in advance, and we will book them in based on our system capacity. This will result in some inefficiency, again, because you have some customers who are booking well in advance, and the system is slotting them into vehicles and time slots, whereas the balance of customers are essentially fighting over the balance of the capacity in the network. In terms of perception risks, it does appear that we are giving preferential treatment for our customers with specialized transit requirements. And the impact to existing customers, it basically, we're maintaining what we have today. So again, in terms of unaccommodated rates, with more services, we'll see that go down, but as more customers become familiar with the service, as more customers try to access, we'll probably still see a bit of an imbalance where we have a majority of the capacity occupied from customers with specialized transit. In terms of option two, which is the standardized booking window, we have equitable access. Again, all customers will access the network at the same time. You do have some moderate efficiency gains in that everybody will be booking in advance, and you have that optimization opportunity from the application 24 hours out. There's that perception that some customers eligible for specialized trips won't be successful in getting their trip because of the historic greater space in the booking windows. In terms of impacting the impact to existing customers, it allows people to plan their day. They'll know well in advance because they can now start accessing the system multiple days in advance. If they're successful in booking a trip, they've got that trip, they can plan the rest of their day. If they can't book that trip, they have a bit more time to make alternate arrangements if that is indeed what they want to do. In terms of the no booking window option, again, good in that it has equitable access, good in terms of capacity. It is essentially the most efficient methodology for us to provide the most trips across the region as possible, because again, the system will take incoming requests in real time and match people to available vehicles without having to worry about stuff that was pre-booked. There's the perception that customers requiring, like, they really need to use transit and they really need to get to a destination today. They won't be able to access it. So, you know, that perception and worry about, well, if I can't book my trip, what am I going to do? So that's something that we really do have to watch out for. And then again, from existing customers, those customers that have been able to access quite in advance historically now won't have that advanced ability, and you know, they'll really have to potentially adjust their planning if they're unsuccessful at booking a trip. The last decision is in and around legacy trips that are traveling outside of Durham region. So we really have two scenarios where this exists. We have a customer that travels well into Markham. The location is called the Center of Dreams. It's essentially across the street from Markville Mall. And then we have a small number of legacy customers that travel to Centenary Hospital in Scarborough. It should be noted that we do have established transfer points, both with York Region Transit and TTC Wheel-Trans, for customers that do transfer to and from our services. The YRT's transfer location is at Markham Stouffville Hospital, and TTC's transfer location is the Meadowvale bus loop located at Meadowvale and Shepherd in Scarborough. There is a map on the screen that just shows the actual distance and travel pattern for our vehicles to go to and fro in terms of where our buses are going to accommodate these customers. Based on the average, this consumes about 8 hours of service per week. So that's 8 hours of service that could otherwise be used by customers traveling within Durham, Durham residents, employees, students of Durham region, because these vehicles, they're often traveling at rush hour on top of the distance into Scarborough. There's also the risk, and it does happen today. It's not frequent, but it does happen today, where one of our legacy customers could be on a bus sitting right beside a newer customer also traveling to Centenary. Our on-demand vehicle will go into the Meadowvale Loop, drop off customer B, and then proceed to drive beside the TTC Wheel-Trans vehicle en route to Centenary Hospital, because customer B was not a legacy customer that was given this service in the past. So two real options here. Option one is status quo. We keep honoring these customers until at some point in the future they no longer need the service. And then option two is effective this July, you know, through appropriate notice to the customers, and we would certainly help them with travel training. We essentially stop traveling outside of our jurisdiction and continue to accommodate these customers in a different service offering compared to the balance of our customers. That's a lot of information, so I'm going to pause there, assuming there's going to be some questions.
Thank you. That is a lot of information. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I have struggled with this, and I've read the reports, and I know you want to treat everyone equally, but everyone is not equal. Someone need dialysis treatment. That's a life-altering measure, and if you're not going to if we're not going to provide that service, what are we doing as a society to begin with? And if you talk about leveling the playing field, then we would get rid of handicap parking, and if we want to treat everybody equally, so it really doesn't. I struggle with that. I believe folks should be able to have those services available when required. And that's what we do as a society. That's what we do for our neighbors. So when you open it up, that service isn't going to be there for those folks when they need it. And, you know, I guess if you ask a neighbor, they would agree that folks that need this service, it should be there for them when they need it. So for that, you know, outside the jurisdiction, fine, I could live with that. But not having those services available for our folks, they're our residents, they're our neighbors, they're our family members. When they need it, I think I cannot support that aspect of that. I think we should enhance what we have rather than try to diminish it or reduce it, to be quite honest. So those are my thoughts. I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Through the chair, so my only comment, when we look at the AODA in terms of transit, it's really about removing barriers and not looking at individuals' trip purposes. As a human being, I completely understand and agree with what you're saying, but as a transit provider, we're looking at what are the opportunities for us to eliminate barriers for customers, all of our customers, to access the network. And that's where we had to look long and hard at how customers interact with us and ask ourselves those difficult questions internally. Are we actually creating barriers, or are we providing that equitable access to all customers, and therefore, you know, essentially opening up the service to as many of the residents of the region as possible? That's really our core mantra. It's how do we make sure that we're not creating, at the same time, eliminating barriers for our customers to access the service.
But you're creating barriers for those that need the service and they don't have it. They'll call and there's no capacity for it. And to me, I don't think that's acceptable. I think the AODA standards, we can go beyond that. We shouldn't be catering, okay, let's just meet a standard. We, as a society, we should be able to do better than that. Those are just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll respond to that just to ensure that we're talking the same thing and capacity. And I think we've talked about this before. The demand for on-demand services, whether we're talking about customers registered for specialized services or other customers, our capacity does not meet our demand. That's why we have the high unaccommodated rates now. What we're looking at here is how do we best utilize our capacity that's available in the most equitable manner. I think through the annual investments we're making, through our 10-year plan, so we've added 11,000 hours to the on-demand network each of the last 2 years. We're coming into the next budget cycle as well. And I just want to reiterate that we know that we have an unaccommodated rate that's higher than we want, but that's a function of capacity versus the demand that's there.
Anything further, Commissioner Anderson?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner McCaughey?
There we go. Thank you. Through you, Chair. So just so I'm completely clear on this, status quo, if we go anything other than status quo, we're right now we're prioritizing rides for specialized needs, right? So if we take any of the other options, we're opening it up to a larger population and equalizing the ability for booking. Is that kind of what I'm to understand?
Correct.
Okay. I know that we're trying to make it equal for all. I understand that, but if I can just, we're not equal. So I feel like we're making the booking possibilities a competition at this point. And, you know, if anybody's, like, I grew up with a very close friend that, almost family, that was special transit. And it was always a challenge. And he missed so many birthday parties and so many celebrations and so many good things in his short life because of transit. So I don't want to be the person that steals the ride from the person that can't maybe hit the button fast enough. So that's just who I am to the core. So I'm going to really struggle with anything but status quo here today. So I will support increasing budget for this for that reason, but I really can't do anything else. I'm sorry. And I appreciate what you're trying to do. You're trying to bring it out to more people, and we want that. But at the same time, I can't support being competitive for those rides for those users. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Schumer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I fully appreciate where the prior two speakers were coming from, but I'm going to echo what the general manager stated. As it is, we're not meeting the wants or needs of riders, whether they're specialized or not. If we were, then the unaccommodated rate wouldn't exist. And I think what's being brought forward here today is at least an opportunity to look at rejigging some of this system. And in my discussions with the general manager, and I guess you could confirm this, even though we might put this cap of 30% on there. I mean, we've got people that need, whether it's subscriptions or they just need a ride at different times on different days. So is it not correct that even though we're saying 30%, that some days and some times of the days, it could be higher than that? Because simply we've got some capacity at certain times of the days where we've got lesser at other times of the days.
And through the chair, so each day of the week, essentially based on how our vehicles are placed out on the road. So I'll use a real world example. So today we deliver approximately 1,000 trips per weekday. So if the recommendation was adopted, our booking agents would essentially be looking at in and around 300 trips per weekday would become part of that subscription model. We wouldn't stop exactly at 300s. You know, if we were at 299 and somebody asked for a round trip, we're content to go to 301. So it really comes down to, you know, what are our average trips per day at the time based on how many vehicles, what's our budget, and that number is going to continuously be evolving. And then we would be in and around that 30% so that we would make sure if we're going to take someone to a destination, we're going to make sure that we bring them home with that same subscription.
Right. And you know, as far as the booking window, I think there's some logic in what is being proposed or recommended. But I think what's also got to be perhaps built into the system, if at all possible, is you know, where the individual is. Because I think you mentioned it, and it was certainly mentioned in my discussions with the general manager about, you know, options. Because, you know, some people will have possibly some other options. And if they're given that kind of window where they've got maybe 3 days to realize that they cannot use DRT on the specified day, then, you know, they can possibly arrange a taxi. They can possibly arrange, you know, even a ride share. But saying that, there are some areas of the region, specifically the north, where those options don't exist. There are no taxi services. There's not even ride services. In Brock Township, if you try to get Uber or Lyft or whatever, you can't. There's nobody offering it in the north. So I'm just wondering, you know, should we go down that road of, you know, for the windows and that 3 days, if something can be built in to recognize that some areas of the region do not have the options that we might be presuming that they do. You know, it's great down in the larger centers where you've got a lot of people maybe offering ride sharing services, but in other areas of the region, you simply don't have it. And just getting back again to Commissioner Anderson's concerns, and they're valid concerns, but I don't really believe that what's being recommended here is any kind of substantial reduction or diminishing of the service. I think it's possibly, you know, making better use of the service, and yes, making some of the service more reliable for people who are not necessarily using it for specialized services. But there are a lot of people that need a reliable transit system. And if we had the unaccommodated rates happening with, you know, scheduled services in the larger centers, if people, you know, would not expect a bus 25% of the time to come by, that would be outrageous. And I'm sure there'd be a number of commissioners, there'd be a number of council members that would be screaming bloody murder if that happened on a regular basis, that, you know, 25% of the time the bus doesn't show up. And that's what we've got in some other areas of the region. So we've got to make better use of the capacity, which also spills in, I think, to the cross-border part of the presentation. And I get, you know, it's kind of surprising that we would even be currently doing what you're saying is happening. So if I'm correct here, you're saying that right now, on some occasions, we are not only, you know, driving an individual to the hospital, but we're following along a Toronto Transit vehicle who's carrying another one of our passengers to the very same hospital. So that, okay, you're nodding. So that's what's happening. I mean, that is by definition a waste of capacity. And I think we've got to do what we can. And I think by making these changes, we're not tying our hands to well, these changes are it, and we're not going back. You know, I think what's been brought here is a very reasonable set of proposals that we can take a look at and see, hey, are we getting the accomplished goals here? Because, you know, obviously there's been some problems identified in the system, and these are possible ways to solve it. So I want to thank you for bringing the presentation forward.
Just to be clear, the subscribed rides are 5 or 6? Oh,
Sorry, which option?
legacy. Oh, the legacy rides are, there's
There's 6 customers.
6
Yeah,
that are
5
legacy customers.
Correct. 6 customers overall, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm interested if there's any breakdown on the information you've provided of urban service using on-demand for specialized service versus the rural ones, kind of building on Commissioner Schumer's perspective. Do you have any information that helps delineate those two?
Through the chair, I don't have it in front of me. I know from looking at the data on a regular basis, the significant percentage of the service is through the bulk of the urban areas in terms of the number of trips completed. In terms of specialized, that breakdown would probably be similar. I don't have that data right in front of me.
Because I'm with the other 2 commissioners that said it's really difficult to take something away from somebody who relies on this for important services to get to appointments. And with that, we can't judge on when those people are able to, like, if they're fully qualified for that level of service or not. I get that there's some degree that you can get some proof, but it's a pretty sensitive subject. I know we're acting as regional transit, but 2 or 3 of us are from the north, and I'm just trying to understand the impact locally, both for those that use the subscription service today, but also how do we better serve? The biggest complaint I get is I can't get an on-demand vehicle for just the ad hoc trips. It's 100% the biggest complaint I get. I have less than 5 people who are complaining from a subscription service perspective, if that many. So I'm struggling to make a decision without understanding the local impact, albeit that we're sitting here trying to look at it more holistically from a region perspective. So I don't really have a question to lead to here, but I'm not sure I have all the information I need to make a decision.
Through the chair, just in terms of data, while we don't have the number of subscriptions broken down by municipality, on page 7 of the GM report, at the top of the page, you'll see a breakdown of all the on-demand trips and specialized trips by municipality, so our current month and year to date.
Is there, okay, so I'm not, okay, so are we're looking for a decision, right? You want a decision today?
Yeah, 3 topics with 3 recommendations that need 3 decisions.
Based on the
correct.
5 choices? Oh, no.
Topic 1 has 5 options. Topic 2 had 3 options,
is
and
just
then
presentation.
topic 3 was a yes or no.
Okay, so this is the presentation, so we'll get to the report later. Is there any other questions to the presentation? Am I right? That's what I said. Is no other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Sorry.
you.
I should turn my mic off when I'm talking to her. Neither one of us know what we're doing. Anyway, okay, so we have no delegations, we have no correspondence to the report. The general manager report, I need a mover and a seconder. Commissioner Watton, Commissioner McCaughey. Is there any questions to the report? Seeing none, all in favor? The next one is a report on the UPass agreement extension. I need a mover and a seconder. Commissioner Garrett, Commissioner Anderson. Is there any questions to that report? I don't see any. All in favor? Thank you. So then now we're down to the changes on the on-demand booking standards. I need a mover and a seconder. Commissioner Brenner, Commissioner Schumer. Is there any questions? We're going to have, I think there's a recommendation on here, right? Let's go to that. I was just there. Commissioner Anderson. Sure. So the recommendation, can we get the recommendation on the screen? Is it possible, Roger? I will do that. Oh, you can do it? There we go. So the recommendation is A, that the on-demand subscription be inclusive of all on-demand customers with 30% of overall daily service capacity reserved for subscription trips, including a minimum of 15% for capacity reserved for subscription trips for customers registered with specialized transit be approved. Number 2, that the on-demand subscription valid for seasonal period be approved. Number 3, that the booking window for 4 days for specialized transit trips and 3 days for other on-demand be approved, and that the booking window of 3 days when all on-demand trips are booked through DRT on-demand app be approved, and effective July the 1st, all on-demand trips connect with neighboring transit services at established transfer points be approved. So, lots to chew on there. Do we? Commissioner Watton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of questions. With option A, so if we go with the 30% overall daily capacity reserved for subscription trips, and 15% of that capacity is for customers with specialized transit, how many subscriptions would that be that are not going to be recognized? I have an idea, but I'd like you to tell me.
Anthony?
Give me one quick second. From a customer perspective, it's about 150.
Wow, I was right on there. I had it right on. Okay, so, all right, and that's just assuming that that those 150 won't be able to just make a regular on-demand request, correct?
Through the chair, yeah, so that means they won't have that
They won't be
subscription. They would
guaranteed
still have to
that
book
it-
ad hoc within the
exactly.
booking window, correct?
Okay, okay. My second question deals with E, that, so we are going to grandfather, is that what this is saying in that starting July 1st, all on-demand trips with neighboring transit established transfer points be approved? So is that remaining status quo then? Is that how I'm reading that?
The recommendation is that these legacy customers that we're transporting out of Durham, we would have them transfer to our partner agency at the established transfer points. So we would no longer honor the legacy travel well outside
Oh,
of
so
Durham.
they're not transferring like at Meadowvale Loop?
Today, they're not. Our recommendation is that they do.
They would?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And one final question, which is not part of the recommendations, but it was meant for the first report. If we are saving 1.5 million through the reduction of our fuel costs, how much capacity does that allow us to increase at 40,000 weekly?
So through the chair, I don't have that with me now, but just remember that would be a one-time, we will, again, through next year's budget process, adjust that. So that would be if there was something to be added, we would likely remove it through the next budget cycle, depending on where that goes. We can bring that back to you if you would like at a later time.
You can take it offline and just let me know. That would
Thank
be
you.
fine as well. I was just more curious on that. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Schumer?
Madam Chair, just a clarification on item E. Is that, I think that date was going to be revised, was it not, to September?
Through the chair, correct. I made a mistake, and July 1st should read September 8th like the other recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, it would be interesting to see as far as the detailed capacity and what additional capacity could be brought in. But again, I think this is a good way to see if we can get this system a little bit more accommodating for everybody. And I know we're never going to please everybody all the time. Certainly, I understand that. But I think this is personally, I think this is a really good step to possibly bringing capacity into a more structured way that perhaps more of our residents, whether they require specialized service or not, are going to be able to make better use of our transit. Thank you.
Commissioner Carter?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, good. Okay. Sorry. Madam Chair, first of all, my apologies for being late. Second of all, if I'm asking this question, it's because I'm trying to understand the whole process. The 5 legacy customers that we have, if we move this recommendation, what happens to them?
Through the chair, so I guess I'll speak technically. We would transport those customers based on when they're looking to travel to Centenary. We would transport them to the Meadowvale Loop. They would have to become a customer of TTC Wheel-Trans, and they would have to book the balance of their trip from the Meadowvale Loop to Centenary Hospital for each of their trips. So they would essentially have to book trips with both TTC and us to accommodate their travel to and from Centenary Hospital.
And right now they just book it through you, correct?
Correct. They just book through us and we
how
take them
severe-
all the way.
And how severe is their challenges?
I
Are they
don't
pretty
know.
severe that they have to have the? I mean, what I've just heard is it seems like a lot of additional steps would be necessary for these individuals that are legacy customers. That I get under the impression that these are regular appointments. So, how severe is their challenges?
So I don't know, nor can I comment on the severity of their challenges. What I know is they're They are eligible for direct trips within our specialized transit model, and that would have been approved through our eligibility office.
So they are still eligible for those 5 unique customers. They're still eligible to have those direct routes available to them if this policy moves forward?
So without having our eligibility coordinator here that I can nudge, my understanding is these customers are still essentially unconditionally eligible for direct travel on our specialized transit, correct?
Eligible. You use the
Eligible,
word
correct.
eligible.
Eligible.
But it doesn't mean that they're approved. It means that they're eligible. So would they have to go through a process to be able to find out if they're eligible?
Yeah, so for TTC, they would go through a similar, most of the transit agencies have a similar process. They would have an eligibility assessment. And actually, I'm going to hand this over to General Manager Holmes.
Thank you, and through the chair. Transit agencies, the GTA, we all recognize resident eligibility. So someone who is registered with DRT does not need to register and apply and go through that process with TTC. The TTC will recognize the eligibility that we provided them with. As Anthony had indicated, they would, though, need to book their trip through the TTC if this recommendation goes through. If the recommendation is not approved, it's status quo, and we would continue to do what we're doing today, and they would be getting a direct ride to Centenary Hospital.
So, Mr. Holmes, I just want to make sure I clearly understand this because I'm the 5 individuals that utilize this service right now that have these standing appointments and the standing agreement with DRT, they would be affected by this recommendation, but there is a mechanism for them to reapply or be qualified to be able to get the type of services necessary so they could have those direct points from pickup to delivery, from pickup to delivery. Do I understand that correctly?
So through the chair, not quite. So these changes do not affect anyone's eligibility for specialized transit trips.
Eligibility, I get
Yeah,
that.
so they're
But-
eligible. In the past, we did take people into Toronto and into York, but it is a process and agreement we have with our partners at Wheel-Trans, TTC, and York, that we have a common transfer location where we connect and our customers transfer between the TTC and Wheel-Trans. We did not change what we had previously provided for these 6 customers, 5 going into Toronto, 1 going into York. And what this recommendation is saying is, do we continue with that? Because all other customers now do transfer at those connection points between DRT and our partners. This recommendation is saying that we would cease that practice, and these 6 customers would transfer like all other eligible customers that are traveling into Toronto and York.
So, Mr. Holmes, again, as I go back to, I understand the eligibility, and my concern is their challenges, the severity of their challenges, and that's where I'm quite concerned. If these individuals they already have very complex health issues or communication issues, this could be very problematic for them, and that's where I'm struggling, Mr. Holmes, to be absolutely honest. I understand what you're trying to accomplish. I understand it's a fiscal responsibility. I understand that there are other steps that you're trying to put in place so that these individuals can still receive the services. I am concerned about the severity of the individuals, and I'm wondering, have we had conversations with these 6 individuals or 5 individuals?
Through the chair, not at this point. If the recommendation moved forward, the reason we have a September 8th time for any change would be to allow appropriate time for communication, allow people to make other arrangements if that's what was required, but to allow sufficient time to communicate the changes with the individuals.
Mr. Holmes, I'm still concerned about those individuals because I know that in some circumstances we have individuals that have severe challenges and they utilize this service because of the dependency and of the time of either treatment or appointment that is necessary for them in regards to the consistency. And I worry that taking that component out could jeopardize the well-being of the individual. And not knowing what their challenges are and how this this motion may impact their long-term health and well-being is for me is a challenge. And I just, Madam Chair, I don't know if you can help me with this, but right at this particular time, that's where I'm sitting, and that's what I'm concerned about. So if you have a suggestion, Madam Chair, I'm more than willing to hear maybe your recommendations or suggestions.
Well, we have a couple people more on the speakers list, and then I think we can look at this again. Is that okay? The recommendations?
That's great. Madam Chair, I'll follow your direction.
Okay,
I just want to express what my concerns were.
right.
I
Thank
hope you understand. Thank you.
Of course. Commissioner Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One question that just consideration to Mayor Carter would be, I appreciate his passion and compassion for the 5 or 6 individuals now. The reality is there will be additional people that will have those same conditions coming down the road. So we're not really just talking about these 5 or 6. I think we're capping it. I don't think anybody else can be added to this service. I'm just looking to GM Homes, right? So there will always be people, Mayor Carter, who will be in a position that would need this very customized service to meet their difficult situation. We're dealing with some of those today. I'm just going to look to GM Homes for a minute. We're helping those people in a different way today, would we not be? Is that clear, that roundabout question?
I think so, through the chair. We have our customers who are registered with Specialized have a variety of abilities and challenges. Not knowing what the specifics of these 5 individuals are traveling to Centenary and the 1 individual traveling into York, it is reasonable to say that there are other customers likely with similar disabilities on the network who would be transferring at Meadowvale and then continuing on their journey. That's a reasonable assumption.
Just food for thought then as we come back around to talk to Dan some more. Forgive me, I have a laptop problem, self-imposed, it's died. When we talked about the 30% of overall service capacity reserved for subscription and 15% of that for the specialized transit, and I know this was presented, and I'm sorry to be asking, I should have it here in front of me, but I don't. Is there a cap today on status quo? Is there a cap?
Through the chair, so no, other than we temporarily paused in December when we provided that information report about what the system health was.
So would an option be to adjust this to be 30% of overall daily service capacity reserved for subscription trips, and give that full 30% to customers registered with Specialized Transit? Would that increase? That would help address the issue, because I think this is, in my opinion, too restrictive to those that need it. Would that address those 100 and some individuals, and would it also increase overall availability of on-demand?
It would reduce the existing customer impact, yes. So if it was 15% reserved for Specialized, we're probably looking at an impact of about 150 customers compared to today. If the entire 30% was reserved for customers eligible for Specialized trips, in and around 50 customers compared to today. So 50 existing customers would not receive their subscription. We would still likely achieve a heightened capacity, because today, this number of subscriptions we have in the system on a daily basis generally consumes about 40% of our overall capacity. That's before anybody starts booking any kind of ad hoc trip, regardless of the booking window. So that would be about 10% more overall capacity that would be available to the balance of customers.
Because where I'm going is I'd like to see us do, as the other commissioners have said, the right thing for those that rely on this service. Sounds like there's also a fair number of people who are using this for whatever reason. It's good service to get to and from work every day. but are not falling within the category of specialized transit. So frankly, those people would have other options. Won't be as good, won't be as cheap, I get it. But my leaning is where the other two commissioners were saying is to help those that truly need it, while also balancing in the fact we need to do something to address our inability to serve on demand in general. My thought then, Madam Chair, would be, can we break these out and not vote on all 5 in one shot? And my ask is, and I appreciate the nod, can we do something then to make it more tailored to those that really do need specialized transit, as opposed to others who are taking advantage of a subscription service, but have Uber and Lyft and potentially other uses that cost more than $2.65 using a Presto card? That's for a senior, by the way.
Well, we can definitely split it out. That's not a problem. And I suppose at any point, there could be an amendment. So be thinking about that, because by splitting it out, then you have the ability to make any amendment to any of them. Okay? Okay. Commissioner McCaughey.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I had some of my questions answered here just previously, but the one question I have is, how many of these specialized transit subscribers are no-shows?
Through the chair, I don't have the specific number in front of me, but it is very low.
Right,
Generally speaking, our subscription customers, they take the trips that they have subscribed to.
right. I'm still back with status quo on this. I cannot express how important this is in my mind, that these customers don't have a lot of choices. And this is not just about, the odd trip. This is quite often treatment. It's quite often, as you can see, socialization, quality of life. It is a massive distinction in their life to be able to get out and get places. We're not all equal, and I can't, with a conscience, support anything but status quo, recognizing that perhaps the money we're saving on fuel can go into increasing the service so that everybody can enjoy it a bit more. I'm still status quo on A. And on E, I'm also still status quo, because I can't ask these people to get off the bus to get on another bus in a foreign city where they don't know where they are and perhaps have communication or accessibility needs that are challenging, as Commissioner Carter described. Recognizing as well that there may be people that are doing this trip. These 6 individuals signed up with the expectation that they had door-to-door service, and they might not be able to handle, and I don't know their condition, but those that are doing the on and off bus connection recognize that they knew they had to do that when they signed up. So I can't take away a day program from someone that really needs it for quality of life, and I think that is where this may be leading. So yeah, that's where I sit. Thank you.
Commissioner Anderson.
I guess Commissioner McKay has stated it quite eloquently. So yes, so if we can separate A and E, I'm good with the rest as well.
Okay, I need a motion. Would you like to move a motion to separate and vote on A through E separately? Can you move that? Okay, and Commissioner McCaughey, you'll second it. Any issues online? If not, all in favor? I can't see anybody, so. Okay, if you have a problem, let me know, because I can't see you. All right, thank you. Okay, so we will deal with A first. The on-demand subscription be inclusive of all on-demand customers with 30% of the overall daily service capacity reserved for subscription trips, including a minimum of 15% of capacity reserved for subscription trips for customers registered with Special Transit be approved. Do I need to move on? You asked for a recorded vote. Should we be recording for all? Just for A and for E? Okay. Is there any discussion on A? Any amendments on A? Oh, sorry, Commissioner Garrett?
Thank you. I'm okay with the resistance to that proposal. I'm not sure I'm prepared right now to make what the percentage dedicated to specialized transit is. Because right now, we're saying it's wide open. This is proposing 15%. I would like DRT management to come back and say, you could still serve those with the specialized transit needs to meet Rhonda's proposal, but still free up capacity for other riders. So I don't know what that percentage is, and therefore can't really propose an amendment.
So through the chair, just in response to the question, so just using the current 1,000 trips per month per weekday generally is what we're delivering. I believe Anthony indicated that right now, before we paused in December, about 40% of capacity was subscription trips. So every weekday, 40% of the capacity was reserved and pre-booked for subscriptions. At the 7-day booking window, any other customer registered with Specialized Transit could book their trips within that 7-day window. So they had 60% of the capacity left. Within 24 hours, whatever remaining capacity was there was available to on-demand. So that's what it was in December. As that percentage of subscription trips increases, the capacity for other people to book ad hoc trips gets reduced. So that's the impact. So we're at 40% today. We did recognize a cap of 30%. Option 4 was 30% just for specialized transit trips. Option 5 that we recommended was the split between specialized and other on-demand customers. So that 30% cap was what we felt was appropriate in terms of the subscription component, with the remaining 70% available to all other customers to book their travel needs. So if you were to ask us what our recommended cap would be for subscriptions, that's where the 30% would be our recommendation.
So maybe I'm just needing more coffee, but the 40% of capacity is currently being used for subscription. Of that 40%, how much of it is specialized?
All of it.
Oh, it's all that way. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I missed. Apologies for the dead laptop. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Brenner?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
I'm wondering, on A, from the discussion we've had amongst all of the members of the exec committee, would it be in order to refer item A back to staff and to enable further discussion on revised wording that will achieve and recognize inequity that exists versus the equity? I'm not sure if I've got the right word or not, but I think what we're saying is that you can't make it all the same, because unfortunately there are different situations that are much more severe than others, as we've heard. So I'm trying to come up with wording that refers it back, gives direction, that would capture and recognize the inequity of the different needs of the different clients that we have. And I don't know, maybe that's something that the chair and vice chair can work on on our behalf to assist the staff with the revised wording.
I think the difficulty, Commissioner Brenner, is that we could refer this back to staff, but I believe that it'll come back the same, because that's what they recommend.
But that's why I'm suggesting that we refer it back with direction that would bring it back in with a different recommendation. Maybe I've got the wrong wording. In Pickering, if we refer it back and we give direction, it's not the same as a deferred back. So it would come back with revised, because the direction, it would be asking for revised wording, not to come back the same way. Maybe through the clerk, through you, Madam Chair, to the clerk, our procedures if it's referred back with direction, does that enable changing the recommendation?
But help me understand what direction we're asking for it to go back to status quo, which was 40/60?
I'm not sure if that's what I was hearing from all the other commissioners. I'm wondering if there is a better way to achieve what we're trying to achieve that recognizes the inequity of the needs of individuals.
I think that becomes status quo.
So through the chair, I think we're trying to understand the nature of the question, the direction. And I just wanted to, again, highlight the options which staff presented. One was status quo, which would be unlimited subscriptions for customers registered with specialized transit. We're at 40% today. We know that that number is going to continue to increase from 40%. Pre-pandemic, 2018, I believe 70% of all specialized trips were subscriptions, with 30% remaining for other people who didn't have a subscription able to use. So it's at that status quo. So it will grow from 40%. The other option, I haven't heard no subscription, so I'm not going to even touch on that one, but then I've heard what is that right level of what should that capacity be potentially for subscriptions. Staff had recommended 30%. Reserved specifically for customers registered for specialized transit, with the remaining 70% of daily capacity available to all customers to be able to book their trips. And then the option which is presented here in the report and recommended was still a cap of 30%, but it was basically split in half for customers registered for specialized transit, the other half for other on-demand customers. If the question is what is the recommended percentage of the network that we should reserve for subscriptions, staff are generally recommending 30% to allow other people to book their travel. It really comes down to how much of the network do we want to reserve for people that have subscriptions, and how much do we want to make available to other people who can't get a subscription because others have it for their ability to travel. So what is that percentage? Staff have recommended 30%. Gladly take direction from the tech if that's not the right number that you're comfortable with.
Commissioner Brenner, I had to turn your mic off because we were getting an echo. If you wanted to speak again, there you go.
My apologies. I should have shut it off. Sorry about that. From what I'm hearing from my colleagues on the other commissioners are that the percentages are not acceptable. So the concern would be, if we call the question on A and it's defeated, I'm going to assume that makes it lost and it just remains status quo. Am I correct, Clerk?
1 second. Okay. So if I understand it correctly, is that 40% is currently the amount of customers we have with a subscription. It's not a cap. That's just the number. So technically, you could have a cap of 40% and 60% available to others. Is that correct? Maurice, can you mute? So I'm hearing myself a bazillion times. Am I interpreting that part?
So through the chair, based on today's data, that is close.
So
Individual days, it might be slightly higher, might be slightly lower, but
Right.
it's in and around 40% of our capacity is consumed by subscriptions on a daily basis.
And if we take that cap off, that will grow, and then the availability will be less. For other customers.
That assumption is true. We expect that there will be more subscriptions over time, which means the balance of availability to other customers eligible for specialized or on demand would be reduced.
Okay. I don't know where we are now. We need a motion. We've got this on the floor. Are we going to vote on this? Do we have an amendment? Is there? Yeah, you want to vote? Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Anderson. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, okay, so even at 40%, I still get calls that people are unable to book for specialized transit. So reducing that, that's even going to make it worse. So, yeah, it caps it, but there are others that still are not even able to access it now. So by reducing it to 30, that's going to, you'll have more folks that can't get the service. So what would be the cost if we add capacity? We save $1.5 million now on fuel. Yeah, what? And as you know, I would probably support increase in the budget rather than.
So through the chair, to your question about, for $1 million, we get about between 8,000 and 10,000 hours of service. If you recall, in the last 2 budget cycles, we've added 11,000 hours in 24 and 25. So it's roughly $1 million. I don't have that number offhand in terms of the number of additional trips for that. But again, that would be a question at budget time. We can't increase our budget right now. The question, and in response to your question about the keep people calling because they can't book a trip with specialized transit, that has nothing to do with, nothing directly to do with subscriptions, right? So subscriptions are 40% now. So people that have those, they get trips. So we paused it pending the decision today in regards to what that's going to be. So people calling because they can't book a trip with Specialized isn't necessarily related to subscriptions, other than they're using the remaining 60% of capacity, and it's not available for them to book the trip. And that's the relation between subscriptions, is basically reserving that 40% of capacity, and then that leaves 60% available for others, and you're getting calls that people can't book a trip because there's that 60% capacity.
Madam Chair, one question. So if A and E gets defeated now, it reverts back to status quo? Is that correct? I believe you. With no cap?
So through the chair, we did have an option. Option A was status quo with no cap. I would suggest just, again, if that's the decision that the committee want to make, that they provide that as a recommendation, as opposed to, defeating this is one thing, but moving forward is another. So I would recommend a revision if that's the direction
Yeah,
of tech.
okay. That's easier? Okay. So what does that entail? I could do a revision with option A with no cap?
If you'd like to listen to this. That we recommend A, be referred back to staff with direction to consider revisions on on-demand service that better account for equity considerations between different user groups of the on-demand service, and that staff report back with recommendations at a future meeting of Transit Executive Committee.
Through the chair, just from a staff perspective, I believe that's what staff have done, is they've applied an equity lens to try and look at it. So I think that's what resulted in us being here today.
Okay, forget that then. Okay, Commissioner Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My suggestion then would be that in order to maintain service for the people that have it today, not allow it to grow to potentially 70% over the coming years, that we implement the recommendations now gone off the screen as I look at myself instead, that it be to a cap of 40%. It's dedicated. Thanks for putting that back up. No, it's not status quo. Status quo is unlimited. So I'm saying you'll continue to be able to serve most of the people, not all of them. You'll be able to serve the people that are getting served today, because 40% of capacity, we're getting to most of the people, but as opposed to leaving it uncapped, which is only going to grow, we've heard till 70%, which will only take away from other people wanting to use on-demand transit. So if you need a motion to do that, I would make that motion.
I would need a motion
Okay.
to amend that to 40%.
40% of the overall daily capacity reserved for subscription trips.
Can I, it's for specialized service, right? 40% is specialized service?
Yes.
Okay. How would that be communicated to the people who currently subscribe? Because at some point, somebody's going to be 41 and not get in.
41 becomes 42, becomes 70.
No, I'm just saying, though, I mean, we have to have a communication plan to let people know that there is now a cap. It should cover what we have today, but let's face it, it's a timing thing, right?
So through the chair, essentially the pause we have in place today, we would go back, look at our data. The existing customers that are in place today will continue on, likely only availing new subscriptions if one of our existing customers cancels permanently.
Okay. So there's no communication necessary, likely.
Well, we would likely, we would have to look at various appropriate communication options through,
Okay.
public websites and whatnot, but essentially, we wouldn't have to tell the existing customers that anything is changing.
Okay.
And then the next step then will be in order to, and it's going to be, GM Homes already said, we need to address this from a budget perspective. So I'm not trying to be cold-hearted to the 41st people, but we need to then address how will we address the growing demand for specialized service. But today, we'll continue to do what we're doing for existing customers. So I don't know if that needs to be in there, it just needs to be said, but it's a growing problem that we're going to need to address. We just don't have the budget to do it all, and we continue to say on all issues, we can't be everything to everybody. And everybody's got a passion around which area that we think we need to do, but we can't be everything to everybody all the time without budget impacts.
Thank you. And through the chair, just for clarification for staff, just in terms of, this revision to the recommendation. So just to clarify then that the recommendation as revised here is saying that 40% of the overall daily service capacity of on-demand is reserved for specialized services subscription trips. The remaining 60% of capacity would be available to everybody, including customers with specialized transit looking to travel more spontaneously within that booking window. Okay, thank you.
Need a seconder for that. Commissioner Anderson, do you want to second that? Okay. Okay, all right. Do we have a seconder? Okay, so it fails. What? Oh, Commissioner Brenner?
Said I'd be happy to second it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Is there any comments or questions to the amendment? Commissioner McCaughey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we know the numbers exactly of how quickly we're growing in specialized subscription demand? Because how do we arbitrarily put it at 40? Maybe it should be 45. Maybe it should be 50. Maybe, are we going to be back here in 2 months with a waiting list going, how do we address this? Because I don't want to leave them behind. And it's essentially that's what we're going to do. If they call and, sorry, we're full, we can't take you, you're just going to have to stay where you are. Essentially.
Thank you. Through the chair, we know we're getting roughly 100 plus applications for specialized transit monthly. I don't have the numbers on hand in terms of how many are eligible in the different categories. Again, one of the items, like this is the first time we've probably had this discussion in this depth and with tech regarding on-demand and specialized, so it's really appreciated. One of the things we can do is come back on a more regular basis with that data regarding number of applications and eligible and active customers. Although we don't have a waiting list, and we're not recommending that, we could come back with numbers of people requesting subscriptions that we're unable to accommodate, and we could track that and provide that data. And again, this number could be adjustable moving forward depending on our experiences. So we could bring that data back on a more regular basis, perhaps every 6 months, in terms of how we're seeing those requests increase. And we could do that regardless of the decision today.
Okay, so thank you. So I heard two things there. I really don't have the data to really make this decision with a clear conscience that we're not leaving people behind, because these folks are, if they're not getting specialized transit, they're not going anywhere. So they don't have the ability to call an Uber or figure something else out. That's it. So that is one thing. The other thing is hearing we don't have a waiting list. So they just have to continuously call and see, or try and see if they can get onto the list, which, you know, sometimes it's frustrating enough for some of these folks to just get up and brush their teeth. So tasking them with having to continuously try to get a subscription, this is like a level of frustration that I can't even imagine for some people. So with all due respect, because I understand where everyone's trying to go with this and trying to accommodate everyone, I can't support this. I'm still status quo. Thank you.
Commissioner Schumer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not going to support it the way it is. And I understand the continuing discussion about people with needs for the specialty service. They're not all being met as it is. I can attest to that with residents up here in Brock, and it is a capacity issue. And you know, this goes back to a budget time discussion next year. We all know where that's going to go. But you know, I think in the interest of equity, if we want to serve all the people that need specialized service, then that's what this service will turn into. It will be on-demand specialty, because you know, as a lot of people have said, there's a lot of people out there that need it. Not all of them have no option. Let's not paint it that way. But you know, if we want to serve every person that needs specialized service, then that's what this service will be. Because yeah, as Commissioner Garrod said, it you know, 40 will turn into 42, it'll turn into 75 and higher. But there are some people that need a subscription service, not just for work. There's some people that need to get to school. There's youth, there's adults that need this service to get to a doctor's appointment on a regular basis. It might not be for life-threatening services, but they needed all the rest. So I appreciate where everybody's going on this, but you know, I think it's basically reverting back to status quo. It's going to get there eventually at this rate, but I think we need to think globally and universally across the entire region and for everybody. But I can't support it with this. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anyone else on the speakers list, so we have, we're going to be voting on the amendment, and it's a recorded vote, so if we can have that open now. Clearly, we can't make up our mind on anything here. It's defeated. So we're back to the original A. Is there any further discussion on this point? Then we'll open the vote. It is a recorded vote. I think it's going to go the same way, but what happens then? I think the other option was status quo. Is that correct? For this A? That's the only other thing I heard. Come on, work with me here, guys. Yes? So Is that? Would you like to make an amendment, Commissioner McCaughey?
So,
Thank you.
sorry to interrupt. We have a recorded vote on the floor. So are we wanting to cancel the recorded vote or continue with,
This is on the original A, right?
this is on part A?
Sorry, yeah,
Who hasn't voted?
Okay,
Cancel that.
okay. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
So I would move that we scratch A to replace with the option 1, I believe,
Of
was
status quo.
Yeah.
Okay. That, okay, we have a seconder, Commissioner Anderson. And that is a recorded vote. That passes. Carried as amended, sorry, carried as amended. So then B, C, and D are not recorded votes. Do we need to have discussion on each of these points? Do we have any, no concerns? Okay, so I need a motion for B, C, and D. Commissioner Watt and Commissioner Anderson. If there's no discussion, all in favor? I'm assuming everyone online said yes. Okay. And on E, a recorded vote was asked for on this. Do we have an amendment on this one? This is for the, what'd you call it? Legacy, the legacy group. E is legacy. Commissioner McCaughey?
Thank you. Through your chair, if we, if this vote loses, then do we revert back to these individuals just having direct door-to-door transit as status quo?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask.
Okay, so we're just going to vote on it as it is? As is, okay. Recorded vote? Did I have a mover in a second? I did, yeah. And that is defeated. Okay. Thank you. Well, that was quite a meeting. We have no advisory committee resolutions, no confidential matters. Is there any other business? I don't see any other business. Next meeting is June 4th. I need a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Watt and Commissioner Anderson, all in favor? Thank you very much.